yung mga bagay. Nakita yan po ngayon, request ko ngayon, na let us see it through God's eyes, no? At kung nga nandito si MC, umpisa ko na po ito doon sa video.
10 years after walking down the aisle, Cheryl walked into a courtroom. This couple looked happy on the surface, but they never developed a close, deep relationship. Marriage was just getting up, sharing a cup of coffee over the newspaper, and never really delving into what was in our hearts. I just thought, oh, the next step is having kids. If we have kids, everything's going to feel complete and full. Cheryl gave birth to twin girls, Brittany and Lauren. Yet she still longed for a deeper connection with Jeff. I just felt lonely all the time, like a 24/7 thing. I would wake up thinking, okay, today's going to be different. Cheryl traveled for a sales conference and ran into an old friend named Todd. A brief exchange turned into a 6-hour conversation. That 6-hour conversation began an affair. Cheryl and Todd returned to their separate cities, but continued the relationship by phone. I felt like my heart was being stolen almost right out of my chest, and that I was questioning what was going on. Why did I have these feelings? I started making a list in my mind of all the things that Jeff had done wrong, and that this guy, who I barely knew, was filling all the voids.
I had no idea that Cheryl had started emotionally divorcing me. I would have told you I thought our marriage was great and that things were going perfectly well.
Cheryl was increasingly convinced that the marriage was a mistake.
Are you crazy? What are you talking about? I mean, we have a perfect life. We have a beautiful home. We have great daughters. We have an ideal marriage. It must be that there's something missing, like maybe she wants a newer house or something like that. So when we moved to Dallas, we built this beautiful house on a lush golf course, and I thought, well, maybe this will finally make Cheryl, happy.
Probably another 6 months after we moved to Dallas, divorce started coming into my mind. Like, gosh, the answer is divorce. The answer is not being with Jeff, but being with this other guy. One night, Jeff opened his front door to a sheriff who served him with divorce papers.
I exhausted everything I could to get Cheryl to want to work on the marriage and stay in the marriage. In fact, what I tried to do is change her feelings. I tried to convince her, you can't be feeling like that.
When Jeff was begging me to stay in the marriage, I couldn't even hear him. My heart was so hard to him. I almost felt like I hated him at that point. Once I divorced, I started a full-blown relationship with Todd. We started looking at rings, and when all that started happening, I started to panic. Jeff tried to move on with his life. He turned to God for help.
And what God was trying to show me was, Jeff, you've been leaning on your own understanding for all these years, and it's time to truly surrender your heart to me and 100% and do it my way.
At the same time, friends urged Cheryl to give church a try. Jesus was pursuing me big time, and I started pursuing him big time at the same time. And then I realized that, this is the peace that I was looking for. And so I surrendered my life to the Lord. It was an incredible day, but as great as it was, that's how bad it was, because my eyes were opened. What had I done? Cheryl wrote a letter to Jeff, asking him for forgiveness. At the very end of the letter, I said to Jeff, I've become a Christian, and I feel like God really wants us to have another chance at our relationship.
And as she's sitting there reading to me, telling me that she accepted Christ, basically 3 months after our divorce, what I'm thinking is like, well, how convenient is that? Like, I didn't believe her.
5 years went by. Cheryl still hoped for a reconciliation without any assurance of success. Yet God was working behind the scenes.
Over the next several years, I really started seeing the change in Cheryl's heart. I noticed the difference in her behavior. I noticed that she had a gentle and quiet spirit. And I started really taking some ownership for where our marriage had failed the first time around. And it was then that God started showing me that, Jeff, you weren't a servant leader to her. You weren't the spiritual leader for your family.
As the twin girls got older, Jeff and Cheryl were part of a real-life parent trap.
The girls were always trying to get us together.
We try to get them to kiss us.
I would be like, kiss our cheeks, and then we bend down really fast.
Try to get us to stand close to each other.
You know, give mommy a kiss. They were always playing up to that whole thing.
The girls also made prayer part of their strategy.
So they would pray when they would go to sleep at night. Mom, you know, just pray that Daddy and Mommy get back together. And of course, you know, my heart was just, well, one, it would leap, and two, it would hurt, but all at the same time, not knowing what was going to happen there.
I think the reason why I prayed was just because it was the only thing I knew and the only way that I knew how to get anything moving or happening in remarriage and reconciliation when I was that little.
Jeff was finally persuaded to try again.
I said, Cheryl, how do I know that I can trust you? How do I know that you wouldn't hurt me like this the second time around? And what she said was really profound. She paused for a minute and, you know, almost like she was in prayer and said, Jeff, you got to understand, this is about more than just you and I. This is really about me not wanting to let down my God again. And that's really what I needed to hear. I needed to know that it was at a deeper level.
After months of dating, they decided to remarry. Lauren and Brittany were elated.
I thought they were playing a joke on me. And I was like, nuh-uh, nuh-uh. And then I just kind of ran around the house all hyper and screaming. I think I was just so overwhelmed with emotion that I just couldn't even take it in that was actually going to happen and be in our family. Because if you've been praying for something for 7 years, like sometimes you're just like, well, this will probably never really happen. And then when it does, it's just almost so unbelievable that it's just overwhelming.
It was an answer to years of prayer from them and friends that have known us. And so, I mean, prayers do work.
In a chapel in Colorado, the family of 4 was united again.
It's hard to explain what it feels like to take such brokenness and have a restored family that's healthy, Christ-following.
Just knowing that God has blessed us with a second chance.
He still has work to do in us, and he still has work to do in our marriage, and he's given us that chance to do that together.
You know, I look at it as a totally different marriage. In fact, I introduced Cheryl as my second wife.
You know, no matter what state your marriage is in.
Okay, nagagamit po niya yung mga kapalpakan niya naging problema natin para makita po yung kaluwalhatian niya. Tandaan po ninyo yung pong kasabihan habang tao ay nabubuhay ay merong pag-asa, no? Okay, it really doesn't matter who causes our problems, no? Because whoever causes it, okay, maski man ang demonyo, maski man tayo, maski man pinapayagan ko minsan ng Diyos, no? God can use it to mature us, but it depends on how you will solve that problem. Depende, di ba? Yung ginawa nila, di ba? Nakipagrelasyon sila sa Diyos, di ba? Sa Panginoon Jesus at nalaman nila katotohanan. Pero kung hindi siguro sila nakipagrelasyon sa Diyos, ewan ko kung saan napunta yung nakita po ninyo yung kahalagahan ng pagpapatuloy natin sa yung pagtanggap po natin sa Panginoon. Regardless of the source, sabi ganun, but did you handle your problems responsibly? Okay, ito po yung pag-aaralan natin ngayon. At ang katotohanan po tungkol sa problema ay makita natin sa, sabi nga po, sa message, sa Peter chapter 4. Friends, when your life gets really difficult, no? Don't jump to the conclusion that God isn't on the job. Kasi kung minsan ganun ang akala natin. Diba? Instead, be glad that you are in the very thick of what Christ experienced. No? This is a spiritual refining process, no? With glory just around the corner. Diba? Nandidiyan siya palagi. Okay? Ibig sabihin, kapag meron nangyayari, alam nyo, kaya nga lang kung minsan nawawala ang Diyos, dahil kasi ayaw natin lumapit sa Kanya, tayo na ang nagsosolve doon sa mga problema natin. Pero kapag ibinigay po natin sa Diyos, no? Sabi niya, He is just around the corner, sabi ko. He is just around the corner. God is not the cause of our problems, no? But He is not pleased, no? Or enjoying what causes it. Boy, natural. Katulad ng isang ama, di po ba? Kapag nakita niyo yung anak na nagkakaproblema, hindi siya napiplease. Maski nga sino naman, di ba? Okay, maski man sino sa atin, nakikita natin yung anak natin na No? Now, okay, ito po yung katunayan. Sabi po doon sa Lamentation chapter 3 verse 33. He takes no pleasure in making life hard. Kita nyo, yung pagkaama ng Diyos natin, ayaw niya tayong nahihirapan sa mga bagay na kung saan ay nagkakaroon tayo ng, sabi nga po, kabagabagan. O kaya yung kalungkutan, o kaya kabigatan, no? O kaya in throwing roadblocks in the way. Okay, hindi po niya layunin na ang buhay po natin ay yung buhay, sabi nga po, ano ba yung kabaligtaran ng kaligayahan? Kalungkutan. Kapighatian, yan. Okay, buti na meron ba Bulacan dito. Okay? So, dito sa ating pag-aaral, no, ay makikita, there is 5 purposes in every problems that comes our way. No? Meron pong 5 bagay, no, na makita natin yung mga layunin po ng Diyos doon sa mga problema pong pinagdadaanan natin. At bawat pong katanungan ay meron po din tayong dapat tanungin, no? Sabi nga po, ano ba yung mensaheng pinapakita sa atin ng mga pinapag-aralan natin ngayon. Okay? So, number 1, ang sabi po dyan sa namin, God uses problems, no? Ginagamit po niyang problema upang tayo po ay i-direct. Ano ba tagalog ng i-direct, ma'am? I-diretso. Okay, ano ba ito? Ituwid. Yan, ituwid, no? Okay, so, iyon po isang layunin ng Diyos, no? God uses the problems to direct us, no? Saan po natin makikita yan? Doon sa ilustrasyon na kung sakaling titignan natin, doon sa mga pag-aaralan natin, no? At ito po yung isang example kay Jonah, di ba? Yung kay Jonah, yung gusto niyang lusutan yung pagkatawag sa kanya ng Diyos, di ba ba? Pero binigyan siya ng problema, no? Problema ng isang balyena, di ba? Kaya, di ba? Alam niyo yun, di ba? Kinain siya ng balyena dahil kasi kung anong palusot ang ginawa niya. Di ba? Pero tingnan niyo, sa pamagitan po ng problema na yun, ay talagang, sabi nga, napilitan si Jonah na... Okay, so, eto po, ang sabi po dyan, kung minsan, eto po tao a person may plan his own journey. Meron po tayong pamamaraan kasi kung minsan na-resolve ba yung bigyan ng solusyon yung problema natin. Okay, tayo nagpaplano. Pero tingnan nyo, ang Diyos pa rin ang, sabi nga po, siya pa rin ang merong, sabi nga po, yung final say doon sa patutunguhan ng buhay mo. Okay? A person might plan his own journey, but the Lord directs. Okay, eto tandaan niyo the roadblocks, no? Ang mga roadblocks po to maturity are problems. Totoo lang talaga. Di ba? Hindi ka kasi magmamature kapag yung isang problema ay hindi mo lalagpasan. Ang talagang sang-ayang po dun sa salita ng Diyos. Kapag hindi mo po, sabi nga po, hindi ka nag-head on dun sa problema, kapag inatrasan mo, kaya iniwasan mo, alam mo, hindi ka mag-mature. Sa totoo lang. Kasi papaulit-ulit ka na naman dun sa problema yun Kung hindi ka magtatagumpay sa isang problema, alam nyo, babalik-balikan ka yan. Kahit kuminsan nga, doon sa pinanggalingan namin sabi na, ayan na naman ang isinesermon ni Pastora. Yan at iyan na naman.
Uli-uli.
Bakit kaya uli-uli yung pagkaunawa niya?
Kasi hindi pa nagbabago.
Ayan. Nakita nyo? Kasi kung sakaling napagtagumpayan mo, sinunod mo yung sinabi niya, maski man 100 times niya sinasabi, baliwala na sa'yo. Kasi hindi na ikaw kinakausap. Kaya tayo kinakausap. Dahil kasi, ayaw natin tanggalin na kahit kapag yung paulit-ulit, abay, tinanggal mo ba? Di ba? Di ba nyo naintindihan yun? Apo, maski man sabi nga, maski man nagbibigay siya ng mga roadblocks, no? Tingnan natin na this is, ang purpose po nito ay para sa maturity natin. Okay, ito po ang medyo titingnan natin. Kung minsan yung pamamaraan po ng Diyos, no? Okay? Human plans but God directs, no? Tapos yung pamamaraan po ng Diyos na dapat natin makita, ito po, the roadblocks to maturity are problems. At yung mga roadblocks po na yan ay alam nyo, ang sabi po ng salita ng Diyos, no? Sometimes it takes a painful experience to make us change our ways. Di ba? Na-experience po ba natin ito? Okay? Pero alam nyo, titignan natin, sabay magpapatuloy tayo sa ating ginagawa pag-aaral. Ito po yung katotohanan dan. we don't change when we see the light na natin ang katotohanan. Pero sabi nga po, ayaw pa rin natin matututo. Saka lang tayo matututo, ang ibig po sabihin dito, no? We change when we feel the heat or the pain. Di ba? Saka lang tayo matututo kapag talagang medyo para bang meron ka na nararamdaman na sakit doon sa sitwasyon na dapat na pagtuturo ng Diyos. Hindi tayo magbabago sa katotohanan. Ito po sinasabi nito unlight po yung katotohanan po ng salita ng Diyos. Saka lang po tayo mapipilitan magbago kapag talagang nararamdaman natin yung hinihigpitan na naku po, masakit na. Di ba? Ganun po tayo. Ito po ang sabi po ng Aristotle, yung philosopher po, sabi niya, we only learn through pain. Okay, di ba? Sabi nga po doon sa ipinigay na ilustrasyon katulad po ng bata di ba ang bata curious masyado. Tapos yan doon sa harapan ngayon ng kandila. Brown out, siyempre yun lang kandila nakikita, napakaganda ko. Tapos nakikita niya yung kandila, merong orange doon sa, di ba, red saka orange. Yung orange na yun, para akala ko malamig, di ba? Nung natuwa siya sabi ko, di ba? Pagmula doon, wala na, ayaw na yan, di ba? Ganun tayo, di ba? We only learn, sabi ganun, through pain. At alam nyo, yung isang ilustrasyon po dito sa pain na ito, yung nangyari po doon sa prodigal son. Alam po niyo yung kanta ng prodigal son. Alam mo ba, kami yung kwento ng alibugang anak. Nabasa mo na po yan sa Lucas chapter 15. Yung alibugang anak, nasabi niya, Ama, sabi niya, bigyan mo na sa akin mana mo. Mana ko. At gusto ko nang sabi nga po, supporting na ako dahil kasi gusto kong maging independent na sa'yo, sabi gano'n. Pero kung titignan natin yung background nun, talagang hindi dapat yung gagawin niya dahil kasi para sinabi, mamatay ka na para at least may bigay yun. Saan siya natuto? Para at least yung kapatid doon sa pinapag-aralan natin, natuto lang siya, alam nyo, nung naubos na nga po yung pera niya, tapos nag-alaga na siya ng baboy, nung hindi na siya pinapakain, talaga nakikipag-breakfast na siya sa mga baboy. Nakita nyo? Pagkatapos, doon sa ginagawa niya, nakita niya, sabi niya, hindi ako ito. No? Hinintay pa niya na talagang lulugmok pa siya sa ganun para magising siya sa katotohanan. Alam nyo, ganyan kasi kung minsan ang pamamaraan ng problema sa buhay natin. Pero ito, tandaan po natin hindi po ito kagustuhan ng Diyos. Gustuhan po natin dahil kasi masyado po tayong adventurer. Diba? Masyado tayong explorer. Masubukan nga ito. Diba? Diba, sa umpisa na, maganda, diba? Katulad ng panood natin sa umpisa, pero nahipan siya ng magandang hangin na nagising siya. Sabi ko, hindi, ito yung talagang tunay na pagkatao. At lalong-lalo na, di ba, nung napanood natin, lalong-lalo na nung nakipagrelasyon na siya sa Panginoon Jesus, nakita niyo yung pagbabago? Kita niyo yung kahalagahan po ng katotohanan na siyang binabasa po natin tuwing umaga. Kung nagbabasa pa rin tayo. Nagbabasa ka pa rin ba, Ami, doon sa Bible mo? Kailangan talagang magbasa tayo, magbasa tayo. Napaka-importante yung katotohanan na yan. Tapos, ang naging experience din po ni David, no? Na yung problema pong dumating sa kanya, ay ito po yung idinulot sa kanya. Sabi nga, I have brought about my life, no? I have thought about my life. And I have directed my feet back to your written instructions. Nayo? Nung natuto po siya sa pagkakasala niya doon sa kay Batseba, sa kay Kwan, nung nakita po niya yung habag ng Diyos, siya po ang sumulat, binasa natin sa Psalms 103, nakita niya yung habag ng Diyos, nakita niya talaga yung pagpapasensya ng Diyos. Kaya nga lang, ito po, nakita po rin niya yung justice ng Diyos. Kung titingnan natin yung mga pinapahintulutan po ng Diyos sa atin, kung minsan magdadala sa atin maturity, pero magbibigay din Panginoon, sabi nga po ng hustisya, ibig sabihin hindi po niya tayo kinukonsinti. Okay, David, sabi niya, I have thought about my life and I have directed my feet towards your written instruction. Now, kaya ang sabi po doon, we only change, no, when our fear of change is exceeded by our pain. Naintindihan po ba natin yan? We only change when our fear of change is exceeded by our pain. Ayaw po natin talaga magbago eh. Okay? Hihintayin pa natin tayo ay masaktan ng gusto. Okay? Para at least ma-overcome niya yung, sabi nga po, kung yung ayaw nating pagbabago. Saka lang tayo magbabago. Kaya sabi po doon sa 1 Corinthians, I am glad, sabi nga, not because it hurt you, but because the pain turned you to God. Ganun dapat ang pananaw natin. Sabagay, yung lahat po nakipagrelasyon sa Panginoon Jesus, ganito po talaga yan ako kanila eh. Na kung minsan yung mga pagtuturong ginagawa po ay talagang masakit, no? So ano po yung katanungan na dapat natin tanungin ito? Number 1, di ba? Ang sabi pa kasi dito, God uses problems to direct me. So ano yung katanungan na dapat natin tanong dyan? Sabi nga nun, ask, where is this problem leading me? Para alam natin kung saan po tayo dinadala. At ito po yung pagdidiscern natin, kung dinala po tayo dun sa kaguluhan, kailangan magbago tayo. Pero pag dinala po tayo sa kapayapaan, abay talagang sabi nga po, magpasakop po tayo sa Diyos. Amen? So number 2. Ang number 2 po ay sabi nga po dyan, God uses problems. Kanina po, to direct me. Ito lang po ay to inspect me. Ayan, control. Di ba? Sa France, control. Ay ini-inspect din ng Diyos doon sa ating mga problemang dumarating sa buhay natin. At ang sabi po doon sa Jeremiah chapter 17, the Lord searches our hearts and examines our deepest motives, no? So He can give to each person his right reward according to his deeds, how he has lived. Nakita natin dyan na meron pong reward, no? Tanda po natin, yung reward po minsan, merong reward po na talagang sabi nga po, nakapagbibigay po sa atin ng kaligayahan at meron ding reward na nakapagbibigay po sa atin ng sakit, no? Kaya, sabi po doon sa Job chapter 7 verse 18, no? You, God, sabi nga nun, inspect them every morning and test them every minute. Kaya nyo, every morning and every minute po ay kine-check po tayo ng Panginoon. Okay, meron pong control siyang ginagawa. Pero ito po ang tanong, no? Ito why do God inspect me? Bakit ba niya ako chine-check at ini-inspect? No? Ang sabi po diyan, because, no, He is more interested in your integrity than in your image, no? He is more interested in what is inside rather what is in the outside.
Yeah.
Kita nyo? Di ba, ang pag-i-inspect, di ba, kailangan talaga pupunta mo sa loob, di ba? Bakit tinan nyo, yung inspect sa atin ng Diyos, hindi po siya interesado doon sa mga mapagkunwaring mga mukha natin, akala natin, masaya tayo, akala natin, di ba? Pero alam ng Diyos yung nasa loob, alam niya po ang nasa loob. Dahil sabi nga po dyan, He is more interested in what is inside than what is in the outside. No? Kasi sabi po sa Proverbs, no, humans are satisfied with whatever looks good. Ganun po kasi ang pananaw natin. Nakita lang natin na isang tao masaya na, pero yun pala, yung nasa loob niya, sabi nasa loob ang pulo. Diba? Pero God, sabi nga, proves for what is good. Ipo-prove na yan, na kaya talagang sabi nga po, nandun siya, nag-i-inspect siya, napo-control siya. Kaya dito po ang nangyari po sa mga Israelita Ang sabi po doon sa Deuteronomy, no? God led you all the way. No, yung nangyari po sa kanilang wilderness. In the desert for these 40 years to humble you, to test you, and in order to know what was in your heart. Kita nyo, ang ginagawa po ng problema sa atin. Okay, whether or not you would keep His commands. Diba? Ito po yung tanong natin why did it take them 40 years in the wilderness? No? Alam nyo, ganito po ang tao. Para po tayong mga tea-bags. Alam po ba ninyo yung katotohanan dito? People are like tea bags that if you pour hot water in it, you will see its color. Kita nyo? Saka lang lalabas talaga yung talagang gustong pagkatao ng Diyos sa atin kung mabubuhusan po tayo ng ano ba? ng mga mainit na mga pangyayari sa buhay natin. Ano yun? Okay, so saan po natin makikita yan? No? Ang sabi po dun sa Isaiah 48:10, I have tested you in the fire of sufferings. Ngayon ito po, ano po yung tanungan na tatanungin natin ngayon dito sa pangalawa na yan? No? Kaya ang sabi po doon, di ba? Ang sabi niya, God uses problems to inspect me. No? So ano po yung tanong na dapat natin itanong dyan? Yan. As, what does this problem reveal about me? No? Asan ba yung kahinaan ko? Asan ba yung pagkukulang ko? Asan pa yung dapat kong baguhin sa buhay ko? At asan ba yung talagang dapat ko pang, sabi nga, paghusayin doon sa aking pakipagrelasyon sa Kanya? God directs me. No? The problems direct me. And then the problem inspect me. Tapos ito po yung number 3. Na ang sabi po dyan, God uses problems to correct me. Yan. Ito po, ituwid. Iituwid. Alam nyo, ito po yung pag-aaral na gagawin natin dito na napakahalaga. Okay. Anyway, sabi po sa Hebrews chapter 12, verse 8 and 10. God corrects all of His children. Tandaan po nyo ha. God corrects all of His children, and if He doesn't correct you, ang sabi diyan, then you don't really belong to Him. Di ba ba? God corrects us for our own good, no? Because He wants us to be holy as He is. Ang sabi po doon, no? Alam nyo, ito po ang dapat natin maunawaan dito doon sa mga problemang dumating sa buhay natin. Kung minsan po, kapag hindi po natin naunawaan, alam nyo, talagang tatakayin po tayo ng mga ganyan mga sitwasyon. Talagang palalambutin tayo, ibabagsak tayo, padadapain tayo. Pero ito po yung katotohanan dapat natin makita. Ito po yung katotohanan. God doesn't punish you because He just takes away the punishment. Alam nyo, kung unawain nyo po ito, maunawaan na rin po ninyo yung sarili nyo. Alam nyo kung minsan, pinatawad na nga po tayo ng Diyos. Pero tinan nyo sino ang hindi nagpapatawad? Ang nakakalungkot, sarili natin, hindi natin napapatawad ang sarili natin. Ito po yung katotohanan Ang Diyos po pinatawad tayo sa pamamagitan na kanino? Yung ginawa ng Panginoon Jesus sa krus ng Kalbaryo, di ba? Ang pagpapatawad po na ibinigay ng Diyos ng Panginoon Jesus, di ba? Noon, ngayon, at magpakailanman. Nakita po niyo yung pagpapatawad na ginawa ng Diyos sa atin. Kaya nga lang, siyempre, yung kapilyuhan natin, yung kahinaan natin, pinapahintulutan niya yan Bakit tignan natin? Bakit niya pinapahintulutan? Kasi ito nga po yung pinapag-aralan natin Para mag-mature ka, pero para ilagay ka doon sa talagang tamang direksyon. Bakit kung gano'n na maunawaan mo, ay alam niyo po, ito po ang dapat niyong tignan. Kung naunawaan mo po yung pamamaraan ng Diyos, kung naunawaan mo po ang pamamaraan ng Diyos,